GMGP, good morning, good people. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to wake up with us. You're sick. You're sick in the head. There's a lot of fantasy football shows out there, but I promise y'all, they not like us. Brock Bowers, you looked a little quicker than fast. What does that even mean? Redraft, Dynasty, best ball, high stakes, we got you covered. And that's MVS and Justin Watson with some of the dopest tools designed to help you cancel out the noise and dominate your leagues. If there's a white wide receiver named Antoine, sign me up. Maybe it's cultural. I don't know. In season or off season, rain, sleet, hail, and snow, comma, semicolon, period, next sentence, to bring you the most actionable and entertaining content on YouTube. You don't go buy the dip on the Titanic.
Quarterback that you love, D-Bro. One of the best values in fantasy football.
Prop bets with my man JRich.
Is that yes! Let's go!
So wipe the crust out of your eye, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake y'all asses up with Ray
and Jay
in the morning.
My God.
How good is
Dude.
he? How good is he? Let's get it. GMGP. It is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. Y'all decided to wake up with Ray and Jay. We appreciate y'all being in the building. Ron the Commander, I see you in the building. GMGP to you, Ron the Commander. We got Rob Williams in the building. What's popping with you, homie? Rob in the building. Jay, we got a lot of folks in here. I saw my girl Joe Sanchez in the building, my dog Marcus Myers, Jeff Mabb, Daniel Perry, Ryan Walker, Jimbo, LFG, fire emojis. What's popping? Give me some air horns, JRich. We got a lot to talk about this Wednesday. Player takes, you know, we spend all Monday, Sunday night, Jay, Tuesday, kind of overreacting to what we saw over the weekend. But by the time you get to the middle of the week, you've had some time to sleep on it, think about it, go look at the data, check out the scoring, and then come back with maybe some more thoughtful takes. So we're going to do that on this show today. But I just want to remind everybody out there, if you have not tapped into the channel, if you have not seen what has dropped over the past couple of days, we have some dope pieces of content. Dynasty Theory. JRich, did you see this thumbnail? I mean,
I made this thumbnail.
These guys are sharp. They know their stuff. I thought the same thing as y'all when I saw it. What the hell? But check it out. Mitch, Dan, John Bauer, they do a great job. Dynasty Theory over here on DD Fantasy Football. Talking a little Patrick Mahomes, a lot of other players, WAR usage, really fun stuff, as well as, a lot of people, Jay, they say they can't get deals done in leagues. Man, I can't get deals done in my Dynasty League. Scott Connor dropped this beauty of a show, the auto-accept trade block. And I promise you, if you're trying to get deals done, that is the way to make it happen. It is a very effective strategy in fantasy football. And tomorrow I will be dropping wide receiver usage show, trusting the Trinity. And if you've got access to the website, ddfantasyfootball.com, y'all will have noticed, Jay, on Monday, we included tight ends to the usage department. So we've got some tight ends on their in their Trinity usage on the tool, on the website right now. We did a report show last night in the Discord. And Jay, I don't do this often. I don't come on here, push the Discord, push Patreon, none of that stuff. But y'all, if you're looking for a dope community, you know, a lot of people offer free services. Bonus podcast episode if you sign up for my service. You get that one bonus pod that they're probably half-ass doing in the middle of the night because they don't want to do it. Shout out to the team at DD. When I say we have a full freaking content schedule of bonus content behind the scenes, I'm talking about Jeff Mueller, one of the best injury analysts out there, does a show with Scott Connor privately in our Discord every single week. Pole position, dynasty trade shows, waiver wire shows, Trinity reports, Manic and Chill with Shane and Scott. Literally, there's like 5 or 6 pieces of free bonus content that's included with a freaking $7 subscription to the site, to the Patreon. So if I were you, if you're looking for a community full of fantasy football enthusiasts and degenerates, patreon.com/allgas or go to ddfantasyfootball.com. Get access to the tool, get access to the community. JRich, how you doing today, baby?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, I'm glad you got the pleasantries out of the way. I am rocking the brand new GMGP shirts, Ray. It feels like every day people are asking, DMing, tagging, when's the merch coming? When's the merch coming? And I'm not trying to light a fire under your ass.
I know. You need
because I am not responsible for any of this, so I'm just bringing it up. But I do have to apologize to you and to the people. I was a little wild on Monday. I was dropping a lot of F-bombs. And I forget who the coach was, who I was compared to. Someone tagged me on Twitter. dying laughing and watching that press conference. So shout out to you if you did that. There's already talks to Trevor Lawrence in the chat because everyone knows I'm the OG TLaw hater. And I'm sure there's other ones out there, but on this show, everyone knows OG TLaw hater from the beginning.
We got to get the merch up, Jay. We got the all gas shirts here. We got the olive green DD fan. We got to get the merch up. I need somebody who knows what they're doing with Shopify. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, Jay. We got to get somebody.
Drop shipping specialist.
Yeah. We need somebody to do that. But let's talk about it, Jay. Like I said at the start of the show a few minutes ago, we get some time to reflect and look back on the performances and cooler heads, right? We're not overreacting. We had some time to think about these things. And we also had 2 Monday Night Football games. We had the Bills versus the Jaguars. We also saw the Washington Commanders versus the Cincinnati Bengals. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about following those games. But news, as always, Jay, from the Commanders side, there's some news about Austin Ekeler.
Yeah, so Austin Ekeler suffered his concussion in the game and was knocked out on Monday night. He did stay in Virginia, so the team has already traveled, I believe, to Arizona. And so Austin Ekeler is staying behind for now. Doesn't mean that he's not going to play, but he is evaluating that concussion over potentially and treating it before he heads to Arizona. So we'll see about his status this week. We could see a heavy dose of B-Rob if Austin Ekeler isn't able to play. We're waiting on some other concussion news as well, but Austin Ekeler was a new one from Monday night. The Chiefs elevated Kareem Hunt to their active roster and cut Keontae Ingram in the process. We've already talked about how he may be a problem if you want Carson Steele or you're relying on Samaje Perine. Now he is active, so we'll have to see this week how involved is he and how much do they utilize him in this offense. Have to imagine he gets involved. The only question will be how much now that he is officially active. Ray, big news in the JRich Hot Takes camp. Tim Patrick has been elevated to the active roster by the Detroit Lions. And the reason why this is more relevant for, not so much for Tim Patrick and my thoughts about him versus Courtland Sutton, it's that it could mean that Sam Laporta is inactive this week. We know that Brock Wright will handle the primary tight end duties, but if they need someone to catch passes, it would probably be Tim Patrick over the middle. And so elevating him could mean that we don't see Sam Laporta this week for the Detroit Lions. Gardner Minshew was announced that he's going to be starting this week for the Las Vegas Raiders. He did get benched last week, and there was thoughts over whether they would make the switch to Aiden O'Connell. It looks like they will be rolling with Minshew for one more week. Adam Thielen on that. What? You're not happy about Gardner?
Nah, man. I want Aiden O'Connell, but keep going.
Adam Thielen, with the hamstring injury, was placed on IR. So even though he made a great catch, the old man was struggling and now is on IR. And then the Bengals offensive tackle Trent Brown is out for the year with a knee injury. So he suffered that on Monday night as well. So another offensive line loss. And the other thing, Ray, I believe Frank Ragnow is potentially going to miss this game because he has a partially torn pec. And then the Saints, Eric McCoy is out 6 to 8 weeks with a groin strain. So the Saints starting center, and I think there was another center as well that's hurt. So a lot of centers are hurt right now, but those are the two main ones. And then we're still waiting on the Lane Johnson news. We haven't heard anything about him since he had his concussion over the weekend. But yeah, those Frank right now probably not going to play, but not as hurt as McCoy. So you talk about that Saints offense that really relies on McCoy. He is out 6 to 8 weeks, so that could impact Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, and the pass catchers for New Orleans. But that's the major news that we saw over the past couple of days. Where do you want to get to with those two Monday night games? Because one was a game and the other one, not so much.
Let's talk about who I believe to be the MVP currently here in the 2024 NFL season. A player who is a truck, not a trailer, Jay. I mean, what more is there to say about Josh freaking Allen? Honestly, like what more? This was a player where a lot of people were a little worried about him being valued and ranked and viewed as the QB1, losing Stephon Diggs, losing Gabe Davis, not really confident that James Cook can be a bell cow type running back. And right now, I mean, he is absolutely dealing. He is locked in. Jay, I know Kansas City, they won the championship last year, but I think if they played the Bills right now, I'd probably have my money on Buffalo. He is playing on another level right now, absolutely smashing. I believe he should be the front runner for NFL MVP. And if you have him in fantasy, you are happy. Josh Allen is making it happen with a lot of, I'm going to ask you, are we buying or selling some of this hype? But just looking at what Josh Allen did, I mean, he demoralized the Jaguars. I mean, he completely, whatever he wanted to do, it was like BK, have it your way with Josh Allen. So, yeah, man, that was the big takeaway from that game for me was Josh Allen's dominance versus the Jaguars on Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. And I think the crazier thing, Ray, is so the big stat, I believe it was Warren Sharp put this out, maybe others did as well, but I saw Warren Sharp put it out. It's the Jags are playing a lot of man coverage this year. They're playing the most man coverage in the NFL, and Josh Allen absolutely eviscerates man coverage. And this week, Ray, guess who the Jaguars have the pleasure of playing? None other than the Houston Texans, and I'm pretty sure that CJ Stroud can get loose and those receivers against man coverage. So look out for a big game, hopefully a big game from CJ Stroud. But yeah, Josh Allen went crazy.
Number 1 in the league right now. EPA per dropback for Josh Allen, 0.62. I mean, it is 22 points higher than the next closest player. His CPOE, completion percentage over expected, 9.6. I mean, he's incredible right now. He is incredible. 75% completion percentage. What are we doing? What are we doing, Josh Allen? You talk about a truck. He is a Mack truck. Very impressed with Josh Allen. Jay, I want to ask you this coming out of that game. Our first buying the hype player. This is the first one, and I just got to ask you because right now, I believe he is a top 5 running back on the season in fantasy scoring. JRich, are you buying the hype that James Cook is a top 5 option, rest of season, fantasy football, superstar running back, James Cook?
He is actually not a top 5 running back. He's at 6 right now in PPR.
Oh,
but
God.
yes,
Okay.
I am absolutely buying the hype.
I just
had to double check to make sure. Saquon, Kamara, HN, Kyron, Brees, and then James Cook. But yeah, I'm absolutely buying the hype. I was looking at this a little bit before the show. He is he's second on the team in receptions. He's second on the team in fantasy points from non-quarterback positions. So you talk about a player who's not just heavily involved in the rushing game, which obviously he's the dominant force there. He's also involved in the receiving game. Khalil Shakir is the only player doing more in the receiving game right now than James Cook is. And so you talk about this team that has the lack of weapons and they need playmakers. And Josh Allen's really only played, 8 quarters of football because the first half of the last 2 games were the only times he really did anything. And I believe he threw for 180 against the Jags, 150 against the Dolphins. And usually he's throwing for 250, 300. It's just crazy what this team has done. Joe Brady building up what they did last year. They've done a phenomenal job. I'm absolutely buying the hype on James Cook. The Buffalo Bills are playing as, like you said, if not the best team in football, they're right there with the Chiefs right now. And you could argue they're easily playing better than the Chiefs with how much they're dominating their opponents.
Well, and Jay, that was a great segue because I do want to ask about the Buffalo pass catchers. And Joe, shout out to my girl Joe in the building. She was referencing some of their utilization scores, their usage. When we're looking at Buffalo right now, here's how it stacks out. You got Khalil Shakir up here, 14 fantasy points per game. Pretty good usage, 6.3, not bad for Shakir. And then next up is Dalton Kincaid, Jay. So you're talking about which players for Buffalo are being utilized in ways to score us fantasy points. Khalil Shakir, number 1. Kincaid, second. It's not equating to a lot per game right now through the first 3 weeks. But after that, I mean, you got Keon Coleman still there. You got Keon Coleman. I think that's Curtis Samuel down there. Quite a bit down, man. Are you buying the hype on any of the Bills pass catchers, Khalil Shakir included? Like, do you feel confident about any of these guys? And Kincaid sort of is in a different role because tight ends are awful in general. But when you look at this type of usage, are you in on Shakir? Are you still in on Keon Coleman? Are those guys you have interest in? Or are you like, I'm good on them?
So I think it's interesting when you look at those 2 players in particular, right? Shakir, way above the trend line, so you would expect him to regress back to the mean a little bit. And I think that's great because it would coincide very likely with an ascension from Keon Coleman in the second half, right? So you get a little bit of a role reversal with Keon Coleman playing more the primary X, as you see on the trend line, a wide receiver 3, or if you're listening, right around that wide receiver 3 range. And we know there's a ton of upside, but I think when you look at this offense right now, it's a low passing volume, heavy running game. And while that's not great for the pass catchers, I just think the way they're playing right now, you should want a piece of Keon Coleman. You should want a piece of Khalil Shakir. I probably wouldn't go much further than that. We know that Dalton Kincaid will get involved. He had a bit of a slow start, but he's getting better every single week and more involved. But we need to see the Bills play a bit of a complete game. As I mentioned, they've really only played 8 quarters of football right now. And we need to see them play a bit larger of a sample to really know how it's going to shake out. And I think we will see an ascension from Keon Coleman down the stretch, so I'd be looking into him. But I do like Shakir. I think he can be a valuable asset for you as a flex, but I wouldn't bank on him being much more than a wide receiver 3 weekly.
Man, it's interesting. I'm looking at Buffalo, and you would think as good as we're talking about Allen and lauding Allen, that they would have this high pass to rush ratio, and they're very balanced, Jay. You look at Buffalo, Right now, they've got the fifth highest rushing rate in the NFL, 46% to 53% pass rate. So it's a very balanced attack. And as I look at all the teams that are currently above Buffalo, surprise, surprise, the teams that run the ball, they are winning games. They're all above 500. So there you go as far as that's concerned. Let's go to the other side of the ball, Jay, and talk about a player that neither you nor I have been very high on. We have been quite critical of this player for some time now. The both of us, Jay, have been critical. We try to we're hard but fair, and sometimes it's a sad but true message that you got to hear. Trevor Lawrence, Jay, the golden one. Number 1 overall pick in 2021. Right now, Jay, I just want to read off how bad he has been through the first 3 games of this season. He's bottom 5 in completion percentage over expected. He's the 5th worst in the NFL so far in that category. EPA per dropback, Trevor Lawrence, 7th worst in the NFL. Only Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Deshaun Watson, Will Levis, Skylar Thompson, and Bryce Young have been worse than Trevor Lawrence this season. And just basic stuff. Completion percentage, Jay. 3rd lowest completion percentage on the season. Only higher than Anthony Richardson and Jordan Love, who only played 1 game. Trevor Lawrence got paid a lot of money to go out there, and he's playing very bad football. What do you do with TLaw? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? What's the feelings? He's actually performing worse this season than when he had Urban Meyer as the head coach. It has been very, very bad down in Duval. So my question to you, Jay, how you feeling about TLaw, the temperature check on him? Where are you at with Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, it's tough. You know, it's easy to come up here and say, sell, sell, sell. But, Ray, I didn't even realize he's QB 17 on KTC right now. That window, to some extent, is already closed. When he was QB 12, QB 13, maybe QB 14, you could sell him for a Dak Prescott. You could sell him for a Jared Goff. You could maybe sell him for a JJ McCarthy before he got hurt. But, I mean, now, Ray, he's behind Goff. He's behind Drake May somehow. He's obviously behind Dak Prescott, who's balling. He's behind Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, and obviously the value only goes up from there. So, I have to ask you, sure, you want to sell him. At this point, you're probably trying to sell him for picks? 2 seconds, maybe? Is someone giving you a first? And then from there, you have to go to, well, are you going to trade him for Sam Darnold in a pick? Are you going to trade him for Derek Carr in a pick? Bo Nix in a pick? It's very difficult to value a player like this because we went through this with Deshaun Watson. You look right now at Deshaun Watson, you say, how the hell were you buying him? But it was job security, job security, job security. Yeah. And now it's looking like, holy hell, that job security we've been preaching about for 2 or 3 years has finally run its course. And when you hear Doug Pearson go to the podium and say, you know, we need to play better. Trevor needs to play better. The quarterback situation is not solidified for us right now, and there could be changes coming. He didn't say it in those exact words, but he was paraphrasing a little bit. It starts to make you wonder, like, what does that look like? Is Mac Jones, former first-round pick, 15th overall in Trevor Lawrence's draft class, a legitimate option? Now, I am of the belief that he is absolutely not. He came in for a few plays and fumbled right away.
Fumbled. First drop back. Fumbled the goddamn ball, Jay.
But we've seen this happen already once this season. Sometimes it's not about who you go to. It's about the fact that the offense, the team, the coaching staff doesn't believe in the guy currently.
Jay,
and you need that change.
I hear you.
Right?
There's no way you're making a switch after giving him that. It's just not. Okay? Like, I hear you. I respect the opinion. I think it is a very, I hear you. I don't think you're wrong, Jay. They can't do anything. They're locked in. There is no switch. There is no switch. Which leads us to the pass catchers. What do you do with the Jags wide receivers? Because they are being used, Jay. Like, when you look at their usage, they're being utilized, but it's not yielding any kind of return right now because Trevor Lawrence is bad. Brian Thomas Jr. leading the way. 6.55 usage score, equating to 12 fantasy points a game. You got Gabe Davis way below the trend line. He's getting used a decent amount, but he's scoring you 7 fantasy points. You're not starting him. And Christian Kirk in mop-up duty elevated his score from piss poor to, just poor. It's a poor score for Christian Kirk. What are you doing with these pass catchers? Honestly, What are you doing with these guys rest of the season? You probably feel like you want to start one of them, but you don't feel great. They're not even getting the high-end usage to score you a ton of fantasy points. It's almost like if you've got better options than Kirk and Davis, you probably need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really just Brian Thomas, right? You like that he's being utilized down the field. Of course, you can't control the accuracy. You can't control that Trevor Lawrence is erratic. You can't control anything. But the fact that he's being utilized in that role, it's a very high-value role, as you can see by the Trinity score here. And that's where I'd be fine holding him because it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is in terms of the actualized, like the realized value. He's still a rookie. He still needs to develop in his own right. He still needs to develop his route tree. There's still a lot of things that Brian Thomas can improve on. Now, Trevor Lawrence needs to be better, and that's going to ultimately help him reach that ceiling. It's the reason why we touted him. But when we said we wanted him, it was because of this role, and he has that role now. So
you talking about in that Brian Thomas?
Yeah, he's in the exact role that we wanted him to be in. It's just Trevor Lawrence isn't delivering the goods on his end. What do you do with that? I think you just have to hold him and pray that there's better days ahead because the usage and the way he's being utilized is still great for fantasy.
I'll tell you one guy that I do have my eyes on is Brenton Strange. Depending on how long Evan Ingram is out for, if that hammy continues to linger, we know that Trevor Lawrence likes to target the tight end. It's not a great score, but it's above the line, and he's tracking well with the usage that he's given. So I will keep my antennas and radars up for Brenton Strange. Jay, I want to go to the next game because I want to talk about the next star. And I said it on, I tried to find the episode. It was probably about 5 wake-ups ago. I said, Jay, if there's going to be a player to ascend to that level that we want Jalen Hurts to challenge the Josh Allens, I said it on the show. I said it's Jayden Daniels. That Jayden Daniels is the guy that can challenge that down the line. And the reason being is because he's not a dual threat quarterback from the sense of he's a rusher first. He's a pass first quarterback. He is a dangerous, lethal thrower of the football who's got incredible gifted ability to run. And you saw that on full display versus Cincinnati. He went into Joe Burrow's house and outplayed him on Monday Night Football in his 3rd career game with Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator, De'Ami Brown, Luke McCaffrey, and the ghost of what we thought was Terry McLaurin. That performance from Jayden Daniels, Jay, I don't know how y'all are when y'all watch the game, but when you see people locked in, and I tweeted it out before he threw those touchdowns, it was very obvious. Jayden Daniels was locked the F in that night. And when you go out there and you're 90% completion percentage, running the ball all over the place, Jayden Daniels right now on the season, Jay, his EPA per dropback is 2nd in the NFL, only behind Josh Allen. His completion percentage over expected. JRich, Jayden Daniels, number 1 in the NFL. Completion percentage overall, number 1 in the NFL. And this is adding on top of 3 rushing touchdowns and 177 yards. They also are running no huddle offense, the Washington Commanders, at a 51% clip. The next closest team to run that type of hurry up tempoed offense, the Chicago Bears at 27%. Commanders, 51% no huddle offense. They are moving. They're playing fast. And Jayden Daniels put it on wax last night. I'm just going to ask you flat out. Like, I don't want to bury this, Jay. I want to get right to it. Rank them in Dynasty right now. Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Daniels, Lamar. Where's he at? Where do you think he should appropriately be slotted right now today?
I honestly think he's appropriately slotted. I think the question remains is
where's he at? I don't know where he's at. So give me some color.
He's at 6. So it's Allen, Mahomes, Stroud, Lamar, Hurts, Daniels, Murray is your 7, right? And when you look at Daniels, you talk about he's not a rusher first. Fair, but he's also the number 1 rushing quarterback in the NFL right now in terms of carries.
I'm not saying that it's not an indictment on his ability to run, but he will stand back there and he can survey a defense and deal.
Yeah. He's still leading all quarterbacks in carries right now, so that is a factor as well. But I think when you talk about Stroud, and maybe we'll talk about Stroud a little bit later, he's the guy that until he has that big game, he's going to kind of still fall in value, right? Like we're expecting that 4,500 yard, 35 touchdown season, and it doesn't look like it's coming this season because he's just not playing overly well. And so then you get into the actual alphas, right? The big dogs, the guys who can run. Allen is obviously at number one. The question, Ray, is who do you have at number two? Because I can make the case for Lamar. I can make the case for Jalen Hurts. If you want to make the case for Daniels, you can. And I think you can make the case for Kyler Murray as well, who's doing very similar things as Jayden Daniels. He's more efficient as a runner. He has less touchdowns, but the same archetype is still there and, in my opinion, plays in a better offense. So when you talk about projecting, though, would you put Daniels all the way at 2, knowing that Hurts can probably do the same thing, Lamar can probably do the same thing, and how would you value those guys going forward? Because there is no clear 2 for me. All these guys have rushing upside. All these guys can pass the ball very well, but where would you go and how would you put these guys in order? Because for me, I'm going to lean on the experience. I think Hurts has the highest upside currently. He has the highest success rate of his career, and he's playing horrible. And he's still QB6 right now in fantasy, and he's not even playing that well. He's got 3 touchdowns passing and 4 interceptions, and he's still playing at a QB6 level, so he has a lot more upside in that. Then you have Lamar, who's leading the league in rushing at the quarterback position. We know what Josh Allen does, and then Jayden Daniels is leading quarterbacks right now in rushing touchdowns, and so that's propping him up as well. But where would you put these guys, and how would you rank them? I think I'm going to wait on Daniels a bit because I just want to see it a bit more. Let him get that experience, show it, because we know that Lamar and we know that Hurts and we know that Murray to some extent can do it. And I'm a little worried about, remember we've seen this happen with Kyler as well. He front runs, Cliff doesn't adjust, and then he falls off a cliff and the whole offense falls off a cliff. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it did happen, we'd say, why is history repeating itself? And we have to look at Cliff Kingsbury to those answers.
I wanted to be very overreactionary and say something outlandish, but I think you're right. I want to see him a little bit more. I thought Monday night was a great catapult launching
best
pad.
Performance since Dak Prescott.
I thought it was that ought to, so if you weren't sold, that performance should have sold you on what he can become in the NFL. And we're going to talk about this when we get to Anthony Richardson. They're very, very different players. Very, very different for a variety of reasons, which we'll talk about. But I do think that I would still take, it's no doubt it's Josh Allen. Still going to take Patrick Mahomes ahead of him. And to your point, Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen, right now, I'm still going to put Patrick Mahomes ahead of him. Even though,
really?
I think Patty's like, what, QB 12, 13, 14 right now?
He is below Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, low. Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow, Derek Carr. He's average at best. I don't know what the exact rank is, but yeah, he's right around 12, 13. It's nothing crazy.
I want to say he's QB2.
Very little rushing
That's
upside.
what I want to say. I want to say right after Allen. I'll put him right up there with Hurts and Allen. I'll put him at 2 or 3. But I just want to see him continue to play because their defense is not very good. The O-line is still not great, but they're playing for him. They believe in him. He's a superstar, Jay. And I remember a lot of people nervous about him in the pre-draft process, the size, the frame. Can he really throw the ball? Just wait until they continue to surround him with weapons. It's a very good spot for him. And I like what he did. He put his name on the map for the whole world to see. And I think his value is sky high right now. So let me just put it this way. If there were a world, Jay, where I could take my Mahomes tier down to Jayden Daniels and get something, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you would.
I would do
that's
it.
where
Lamar, goodbye.
Yeah.
First class flight off my roster. If I can get plus, if I can get a plus on top of JD5 for my Lamar, for my Mahomes, for my CJ Stroud, absolutely. I am sold. I was sold on the kid prior to the draft. He's a floor raiser. This looks like a completely different offense with him than how the Commanders looked with Sam Howell or anybody else that they had before him. So I was sold before. He's done nothing but check boxes. And the beautiful thing about what he's doing it from the pocket. Yes, he could run with his legs. We know he could scramble. But the fact that you could stand and deliver and drive the ball down the field with precision and accuracy, that's the shit that's demoralizing. That's the stuff that has Jamar Chase saying he's an effing great player. Not going to lie to you. That was Jamar Chase. And let's talk about Cincinnati. They're 0-3, Jay. 0-3 into a certain degree, it almost feels like we don't want Cincinnati to be real bad, and then they just tool up with a high draft pick and just give Burrow and the Bengals more weapons to go on some incredible run. It feels like they're better than what they should be, and you are what your record is. You are what your record is, but it feels like for the life of me, you called it, Jay. I'm going to give you credit. You said Jamar Chase can go for 200 yards. He should have. He should have.
He 100% should have.
He should have. How does he end up with 6 receptions? Yep. How does this happen?
On only 7 targets. Yeah.
Who's the damn OC? And why are we not in a game where you needed him? How that final drive, Jay? I don't believe he got a target.
No, he was just, but you could tell too, though, right? Like you could tell, and this is where it's an interesting conversation with Chase. It's not a talent issue. That's very apparent. When he gets the ball, he's great. But without the contract, maybe a little unhappy. We always use the word disgruntled. What is the willingness here for Chase to really go all out? And especially on that final drive, and I believe Scott said it in the chat, this is the drive where Chase just disappears. And who was he looking to that entire drive? Andre Yoshivas. And you saw it even in the end zone on the final plays when they're trying to score. Chase is getting doubled. He knows he's getting doubled. Burrow doesn't look his way, rightfully so. But he's not even trying. He's not, like, every route he was on the left side, cleared out. Just making space for the other players, right? And then Yoshivas running behind him. He'd catch a little pass on the sideline. So it's like for me, since he's a defensive issue, but it is annoying that you have a talent like Chase, and hopefully it's not, an issue of the OC and him saying, nah, like, don't target me, don't give me the ball. Like, I doubt that's the case, but it's like, how do you not get him the ball when you saw what Malik Neighbors did? You're going to see what Marvin Harrison Jr. does this week. You saw what Mike Evans did. It's very obvious he can get deep. He did it twice. He can do it again, and he can do it in the short and intermediate as well. It's egregious he didn't get 10 targets in the game, and he should have easily had 175 to 200. Easily.
Listen to the pass rates of these, the top of the bottom, the top pass rates in the NFL, top 8. Jaguars, 65%. Titans, 67%. Broncos, 67. Bears, 68. Bengals, 69. Cowboys, 69. Browns, 71. And the Raiders, 72. What do those teams have in common?
Losers.
Probably a grand total of 5 wins in there between all those teams that just want to throw the ball. They can't run the ball. There's no identity on the ground. And yes, Chase Brown and Zach Moss have a nice run here or there, but there's no identity. They can't run the ball. The Raiders can't run the ball. The Browns can't run the ball. The Cowboys can't run the ball. The Bengals, the Bears, the Broncos, the Titans, the Jags, they can't run the ball. They cannot run the ball. And when you can't run the ball and you've got these, Kurt Warner was talking about it. I don't know if you heard Kurt Warner talk about how watching quarterback play right now is depressing. That these guys can't read defenses, really? that it is, and that this trend is going to continue. It's just, we talked about this on Monday. It's a crazy new era of football that we're in. And I do want to discuss this and talk about Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams a little bit more. We're going to do that after we run them likes up. Almost 300 people in the building here on YouTube. No X, no Twitter, no Twitch, none of that. Just straight on YouTube. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like the content. We'll be right back. Again, appreciate y'all being here. This is the Wake Up with Ray and Jay show. If you're new to the channel, hit the thumbs up button, like, comment, subscribe. We got a lot of dope content that hits the feed every single week. Almost, it feels like every single day around here. I talked about it at the start of the show. Make sure you check out Dynasty Portfolio Weekly. Scott Connor's Auto Accept Trade Block. Get deals done faster and better in your Dynasty leagues. Also, check out Dynasty Theory on the channel. Talking about some players to buy, some players to sell, some ranges, some historical stuff, and stay locked in because tomorrow I will be dropping my usage report on Thursday. Trinity Thursdays on here on the channel. We got tight ends on the tracker, and I'm sure we'll be pulling that up and talking about it a little bit more. But Jay, this is a player that I have seen nothing but bad stuff about from the fantasy community after 3 weeks of the NFL season. And we talked about it privately. I asked you, you said you had some takes about this player, but I want to get into it. Talk about this guy, Anthony Richardson, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know where his keep trade cut value is. I'm sure you'll let me know. But here's what I do know, Jay. I know that the entire fantasy football world was excited about Anthony Richardson coming into this season. I know a lot of people drafted him to be a high-end quarterback. I know he only started and finished 2 games in his rookie year. He also was a quarterback who did not have a lot of experience coming out of the University of Florida, and everybody knew that. I believe that Anthony Richardson is a one-of-one player. And if he fails, which I think there's still a long leash and a long rope before that happens, but if he does, I think he will end an archetype of player. A lot of times we bucket these dual threat quarterbacks into the same bucket. Hurts and Lamar and Anthony Richardson, Jayden Daniels do, but they're not, right? Here's what I went back and I watched every snap of that game versus Chicago. Every snap, and he looks like a player who's not playing confident, looks like a player who wants to run but is a little hesitant to run. Maybe he's been told not to run. Maybe he's just like, I don't want to get hurt, so I don't want to run. But this is a dude that we all knew, Jay, that he was not the most accurate, and he never will be. I don't care if he plays 15 years. You're never going to compare Anthony Richardson to Aaron Rodgers or to a Drew Brees. But the reason why we wanted him, the reason why we were excited is because he's big, he's fast, he can run for a lot of yards. And in today's NFL, you don't need to throw for 350 in order to be a dominant fantasy scorer. Now, the difference between Anthony Richardson and Jayden Daniels is the margin for error for Anthony Richardson is much slimmer because he is not as talented of a thrower as Jayden Daniels. He's not accurate. That's not his calling card. So you look at JD, he's in a whole different category because when shit hits the fan and he can't run or his legs are messed up, he could still throw. That's not really where ARich, where were we at? Like, where were you at when did you think that he was just going to come in and throw for 200, 300, 400 yards? Like that, to me, the panic 3 games in on a player where JRich, y'all told me Malik Willis was dead. Now he's got dynasty value. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like real talk, like that he is not going to fail and flame out of the NFL over the next 4 weeks. It's not going to happen. He's got time. He's got leeway. He's got rope. And I guarantee you, inside the Colts building, you think we're the only people that know he wasn't a very good passer in college? You think we're the only sharp people that know that? You think they don't have a clue that wasn't one of his calling cards in college? Like, things are going to be fine. I'm not panicked on it at all. Shame on us for thinking that this dude who didn't do shit in college was going to just come in after being injured all offseason, didn't finish his rookie year, was going to come in and just light it up and be a QB1 out the rip. But as you alluded to earlier, Patrick Mahomes ain't playing that good. There are a ton of quarterbacks right now that we drafted very highly that are underperforming. So why all the hate for Anthony Richardson, Jay?
I mean, it's just, I think there's a lot of factors. One, the fantasy community is overreactionary, right? Like, and how many weeks and how many months should we wait? You know, you brought up Jayden Daniels. He's a great example here. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's a good passer. Even if you want to say a great passer, more than happy to say that. But right, here's the difference between Anthony Richardson and Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels started 55 games in college.
Yeah.
He threw the ball 1,500 times. He had almost 1,000 completions. He almost had 28,000 passing yards and 90 passing touchdowns. Think about how long it's going to take Anthony Richardson to even hit those numbers for his career, right? The way that he's playing and especially the level he's playing right now. We don't even know if he'll get there. That's how much more experience Jayden Daniels has than Anthony Richardson. But the question still remains is that, yes, he has the time. I think you're giving him a little bit too much leeway because there is still the clock factor. Like, there is still, you got to play. You got to actually get the experience. This time that you have. Yeah, but I'm saying, but this time isn't unlimited. You know, they're not going to wait 6 years for him to develop. He has to figure that out probably in the next 2 years because of his rookie contract. But the thing is with the fantasy community, Ray, is like, he's already QB 11. So he's behind Caleb Williams, behind Joe Burrow, behind Jordan Love, and we talked about the top 7 guys. But then it's, at what point do you say we should hold on to this asset that kind of continues to fall? Because when you talk about inexperienced, needs the reps, first round pick, you go right to Trey Lance to some extent. Not to say that he's going to end up like Trey Lance, because he's not going to have Brock Purdy breathing down his neck. But how long do you wait, and should we wait, if you have him right now? Because right now, you're kind of holding on to a sinking ship in fantasy, because the longer he plays poorly, his value will probably continue to go down, unfortunately.
See, and that's where I disagree. I agree with you, but I don't think that matters. Value is completely irrelevant today. That it changes like the wind. What's JSN's value today versus what it was at the end of last week? At the end of week 2, his value was sky high. Now it's fallen a little. It is truly like the stock market. It's like day trading. So he goes out there, and let's just say, for instance, he runs for 3 touchdowns versus Pittsburgh. His value will be right back up. So the value swings are completely irrelevant, in my opinion. How long do you wait? He started, 8 games in his NFL career. 7 NFL games he started. 7. I think we've got to give him a little more time than that, but that's the thing, right? We're playing a different game than what the NFL. We're on a different timeline. We've got like a 13-week timeline. And in those 13 weeks, we need as much points as possible. I've just seen a world, Jay. I'm talking about Justin Fields, Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Malik Willis. For God's sake, I am not worried about him. I'm not worried about his security. I'm not worried about, this is to be expected from a quarterback. It's a fast game. Look at Caleb right now. Look at Caleb. And I know there are people out there panicked on Caleb Williams, Jay. There are people out there panicking on Caleb Williams. And I'm watching the game and I'm thinking, wait until he learns, like the clock in his head gets where he learns that, where
faster,
he figures out, I can run around a little bit and then I need to get the ball out. Right now, he's still doing USC stuff, and you can't do USC stuff in the NFL, but you can do a little bit of that. And wait until he figures out how much of that he can get away with, because he still is throwing for 300 yards. He can do that. That is within his range of outcome. I think there's just a lot of panic on these quarterbacks. Sam Darnold's got value now, Jay. Literally on the show sheet, you have Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback in 2025, right? I'm not as panicked on Anthony Richardson as the masses. I'm just not. I am not. I am resolved. I'm resolute, 10 toes down. I am not worried about it right now. It sucks. Like his fantasy score.
He's playing worse than last year, which is surprising. Right now, he's got to play better. He's got to limit the turnovers, run the damn ball. The fantasy scoring stinks, but I am not bailing on Anthony Richardson. I can't do it. This was to be expected. He does need to run the ball more, and he's got to play better. This was to be expected. It was to be expected, but last year, 60% completion percentage. This year, 49, right? Last year, 3 touchdowns, and his 84 attempts. He has 73 attempts this year, 3 touchdowns again. But last year, he had 1 interception. This year, he has 6, right? So it's yes, you're absolutely right that he needs more time, but
he's
in an offseason, learning the offense and getting better. But you look at the teams he's played to, he has had some tough matchups. Like we can give him a bit of grace in that regard. We always talk about these guys and who they're playing. It does matter a little bit, but it's just the thing for me with him is it feels like, to your point, he's just doing too much out there, and maybe they need to reel him in. But at the same time, if you reel him in, he can't do the things that makes him so great as well. So it's just funny how you start the season with that 65-yard bomb to Alec Pierce, and it feels like it's just been worse and worse and worse every week since. But when you don't have that confidence, you end up in Bryce Young land.
Here's the problem with the Indianapolis Colts. Right now, Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts lead the NFL in target depth. That is a problem. When you've got an inaccurate quarterback and you're throwing the ball down the field 13 yards, that's a problem. Number 1 in ADOT for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yard per attempt is up, and yard per completion is up 5 yards.
And here's also another problem. Here's another problem. They're also target the tight end. The tight end target distance, 3rd lowest in the NFL. So just they need to make things simpler for him, and then you just got to live with it. Do or die. injury or not, you need to run the damn ball. So I'm going to ask the question, Jay, right now. Anthony Richardson, let's say this season, Dynasty, however you want to take it. I don't want to limit where you go with this. ARich or this player? Would you rather ARich or Brock Purdy?
Brock Purdy.
Okay. ARich or Dak Prescott?
I really want to take Dak Prescott here. I really do. And I think you probably should. He's playing so well right now.
I don't know if he's playing so well.
For fantasy, he's playing
Dak?
very well.
ARich or
I'm
Dak?
I'm taking Dak. He's QB4 right now.
Okay.
It sounds crazy, but I mean, like, the dude is balling for fantasy, and ARich is playing pretty poorly. So it's tough though, because the thing about ARich, right? And like we already talked about it, the reason why you love him is because he can be, Lamar Jackson with time. He can be Jalen Hurts with time. It's the reason why we wanted Shane Steichen to have Anthony Richardson, because we saw what he did for Jalen Hurts. He reeled him in. He taught him how to play quarterback in the NFL, and he made him a $250 million quarterback, and he plays like it every single week. So if he can do the same with ARich, he'll be in that top 6 tier, like we see with Hurts and Lamar and Daniels and Murray to some extent when Murray's playing well. It's just, again, Ray, the question remains is, what would you do? Because you're asking me, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, both playing great. Dak's offense I don't love, but Dak does well in the offense. But Purdy's offense, it's hard not to take what Purdy does weekly and say you'll take that over ARich.
I'll just say he's got a juicy schedule coming up, but it gets pretty rough after that. So here's what he's got coming up. He's got Pittsburgh, which is not juicy. Run the ball. But then it's Jacksonville, Tennessee, Miami, Houston. Not bad. Nice little stretch there.
We'll see. Yeah. He already played in Houston. He played pretty well against them.
Then it goes Brian Flores, Minnesota on the road. Buffalo.
Cooked.
At the Jets. Detroit.
Probably not good.
New England. Denver, Tennessee, and then he wraps up with the Giants. So it could be nice at the back end. I don't mind Denver, Tennessee, and the Giants.
To your point, though, if he has this stretch now, if he can build some confidence, maybe that stretch doesn't look so bad. Because it looked like the Flores matchup, get me out of that. Like, bench him for that one. But some of the other ones, if he's confident and playing well, then he can maybe do all right. But he needs to make things, Shane needs to make things easier for him. He's challenging him right now. And it's very obvious in the way that they're playing offense.
A player that I really want to discuss too before we wrap this show up today. This was a guy that we talked about. We liked him. We liked the potential, but there were obstacles in the way. And one of the obstacles, it was always a risky bet that he would even be healthy. And so far, Keenan Allen has not been healthy. Keenan Allen
injury prone?
Keenan Allen has not been healthy. Surprise, surprise. After week 1, in which he did a lot of stuff for the Chicago Bears, he has not been healthy, Jay. But you look at the utilization in Chicago, and I'm just going to say this. Whether Keenan Allen is healthy or not, don't play him. Do not ruin the development of Rome Odunze. You see right now, the fact that he's inside of the threshold ranges, this is very good. Long story, if you're on here, you want your wide receivers inside of that, to the right of that purple line. And Odunze has steadily been climbing every single week. If you look at his usage in line with DJ Moore just in week 3, and I just want to run this for week 3. I mean, you're talking about Rome Odunze, elite usage territory, 7.79, and we know they were chasing points trying to come back higher than DJ Moore. We don't need Keenan Allen, Jay. We don't need him. Even if he comes back, I've got low confidence in Shane Waldron, but do not ruin the development and the usage of this player. Let's just continue to roll Rome Odunze out there. You look at all the rookies this season. Here's the Trinity score with all the rookies. There's Rome Odunze inside the threshold. You've got Brian Thomas, Brock Bowers, Marv, Ladd McConkey, and then Leak Neighbors way at the top. Yes, your boy Ladd. I am definitely losing that bet. I need to just pay you right now. Ladd is being utilized like a very, 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 very valuable fantasy wide receiver asset. But we know the issue with Justin Herbert and the quarterback room in LA. But Odunze is a player that I do not want to hit the bench, Jay. Let's keep him in there. Keenan Allen doesn't have to come back. Odunze's doing very good with the opportunity, and I want to continue to see this rolling. How are you feeling about Rome moving forward this season, seasonal leagues?
Well, Ray, this is the week, right? This is the week where you could see his value absolutely explode. Right now, Ray, he is wide receiver 13 on KTC. He is ahead of Tyreek Hill. He's ahead of Devontae Smith. He's ahead of Drake London. He's ahead of DK Metcalf, Brandon Ayuk, Brian Thomas, etc. But he's behind Puka Nacua, Chris Olave, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Rashee Rice, and then the top dogs after that. So the question really is like, how high can he go? But I think to your point, we've already seen this chemistry from the two rookies show itself on the field. And most of the reason why he's not valued higher is because of Caleb Williams. Maybe the offensive line to some extent, but we've seen Caleb Williams miss some throws to Odunze where he's scoring touchdowns. He's not just catching small passes or over the middle. He's going deep for touchdowns. But this week, Ray, they have the Los Angeles Rams. And you know full well, I am already looking at Rome Odunze ladders, DJ Moore ladders, because just like the Washington Commanders, who I have crushed all week, every week, betting against their secondary, and they got Marv this week. So you best believe 125-2 is going to be in my slips for Marv. But if Keenan Allen does not play, you will see Rome Odunze catch probably 7 passes for 100 to 125 yards and at least 1 touchdown. Because when DJ Moore is seeing top coverage, Rome Odunze will get better looks, more opportunities, and on the field, it looks like he has more chemistry with Caleb Williams than DJ Moore
it does
currently.
Look like that. It does look like
and
that.
And it's very evident on the field. And that's why when you talk about buying or selling, I think you want to buy because you may see an absolute explosion up to Nico Collins, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. land. I'm not saying that it should happen because I still like Garrett Wilson, even though he should be falling. I love A.J. Brown, of course. I love Rashee Rice. I think he should probably be wide receiver 5 ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown. But can he challenge Marv? Can he challenge Malik? And how would you rank those receivers going forward?
No. Neighbors, Marv, Odunze. Neighbors, Marv, Odunze. Neighbors.
He's getting closer, though, the way he's playing.
I love the way he's playing. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot of chemistry there, and I want to continue to see that happen. Jay, are you going to buy the hype here? I want to end with this one because these are going to be players.
I'm nervous.
These are going to be players we talk about on Friday. And we did it a little bit, but we were a tad bit cowardly and did not lean into it all the way. But I want to know, are you buying the hype on the Carolina Panthers receivers? And hell, Jonathan Brooks for that matter. This new look Carolina Panthers-led offense by Andy Dalton. Okay, are you buying this? And when I want to give you a comparison. This week for week 4, who would you have rated higher in your fantasy ranks? Pass catchers, Deontay Johnson from the Carolina Panthers. There's no Adam Thielen, so we won't go Leggett. But Deontay Johnson or anybody from the Miami Dolphins.
So here's the problem, Ray.
Are you going to buy into Carolina to where you would rank Deontay higher than Tyreek Hill, higher than Jalen Waddle? You're rolling with those Panthers pass catchers over the Miami Dolphins pass catchers in week 4.
I think there is a very good case, especially absent Andy Dalton, to play Deontay Johnson over Tyreek Hill. It's not something I want to say. It's not something that I expected to say. But the Carolina Panthers, who do they play, Ray? The Cincinnati Bengals. So Andy Dalton's got a little revenge game on his hands.
48.5 points right now, Jay. 48.5 points.
And the Miami Dolphins play the Tennessee Titans. And do you want to guess what that over-under is?
I have no clue.
36.5.
I knew
One
I
of
said
the
37.
lowest on the slate. Because, of course, only the LA Chargers can have a lower over-under. Or actually, are they higher than them? Oh, them and the Chiefs are at 39. But yeah, 36.5 is lowest on the slate. The Vegas Raiders and the Browns have a higher over-under than Miami, Tennessee. It's going to be a gross game. And for me, when you talk about usage and you see Diontae Johnson up here in the Trinity score,
9.73.
he was great this week.
Yes.
Career game, arguably, for Diontae.
It was
no
a career
Adam
game.
Thielen. And Red Rifle knows how to get him the ball. And I think he will. The question is Cincinnati going to step up and stop him, or will they be headed for 0-4?
Look at this. This was Tyreek Hill last week. 6.61, 7 points. Jalen Waddle, 3.88.
Who's starting? It's Tyler Huntley who's starting this week. So how do you feel about Tyler Huntley? He's actually probably better than Skylar Thompson.
He's got to be better than Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle. So
it's gross, though, even with Tyler Huntley.
I'm starting Diontae over him for sure. I don't think there's nobody else from Carolina. I'm not playing the Leggett game this early.
Yeah.
I would still start Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle ahead of Leggett, but I would be starting Diontae Johnson over both of those pass catchers. Yeah, just scary stuff going on in Miami. What did chat say on that one? I want to know what people said about so are you buying the hype? Are you buying the Carolina Panthers pass catchers, Jay?
I am, absolutely.
Are you buying this thing with,
they got the matchup against the Bengals this week. I think Dalton's going to play very well once again. But Ray, I had to ask you about Jonathan Brooks because he was dead 2 weeks ago when Bryce Young was the quarterback. But now, not looking so bad to be a Carolina running back. And he's still RB12 on KTC. Can you believe that? I believe he's ahead of Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Alvin Kamara.
It's amazing what a little change in scenery, a little change in organizational structure can do for the momentum and morale of an organization. I don't care if that's a damn football team or your job getting rid of the village idiot that's in the office, right? Once you eliminate some of the cancerous things that have been going on, that have been bringing the morale down, things tend to get better. And I don't know how it gets better for Bryce Young. I just don't. I don't know how this gets better for Bryce Young. Looking back at that, looking at the throws, it just looks like I'm Andy Dalton. I'm a former Pro Bowl quarterback who's thrown for a lot of yards in this league and a lot of touchdowns. I know what I'm doing. I'm confident. And he went out there and just played football. And that's what Bryce Young is not doing right now. So I'm with you. I am in on Diontae Johnson. This week, I will leave the other pass catchers alone, and I would fire up the running backs for the Panthers as well, whether that's Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, whoever the hell is going to be there. Give me a shot at those guys. Jay, anything else you want to say to people before we get out of here? Any final parting takes from week 3 as we approach week 4? We're a quarter through the fantasy season. I enjoy it. It's going very quickly. Before you know it, it'll be over. And all we'll be doing is talking through the same theoretical BS that we do every off season. But what are your kind of Q1, getting close to that Q1 of the fantasy season takeaways?
I think that the biggest thing for me is, will this quarterback play get better? Will we see it improve? Because as the weather gets colder, the quarterback play usually gets worse. So,
okay.
Ray, imagine what we're seeing right now. 200 yards, maybe 225 if we're lucky. Imagine what it's going to be like when these teams can't run the ball and they're playing outside and it's cold as hell and it's 20-mile-per-hour winds. Like, it could be scary hours. And a lot of these teams, whether it's execution, coaching, reading defenses, it's hard to imagine where we're going to be in 5 weeks, and hopefully it's better. But the thing we've been talking about for, it feels like years, and it really is like literal years we've been talking about this. When you have multiple Hall of Fame, borderline Hall of Fame, 15-year starters in the NFL at quarterback retire all in the span of, 5 years, and you're trying to replace these guys, that's not how this works. Like, we didn't realize how good these quarterbacks were, experienced, coming out of college, seniors, lots of games under their belts. Now we got guys who are very raw, very young, very inexperienced, but it's the NFL telling us we believe we can turn them into the next Josh Allen. And there's a lot of those guys that are being pushed into the NFL that are getting opportunities, but they're not all going to work out. And that's where the quarterback play is suffering. And hopefully they can right the ship. But I think with all these guys retiring, there's a lot of youth in the NFL at quarterback right now, and it shows almost every single week.
Yeah. And if quarterback play doesn't improve, does that make the running backs more valuable? Is this a point where you need to be making sure that you have those running backs on your roster for for the push at the end? Should you, or just paying attention to, that position and what's happening? Because I don't know if it gets better. We're not seeing these 300. Remember a few years ago, it felt like everybody was throwing for 300-400 yards every week. It was Dak, it was Stafford, it was. Now you get a quarterback give you 240, and you're like, thank God, 240-1. This was a great week. It's just going to be interesting to watch the trends. I think for me, my big takeaway, one of the things that I'm really watching and following, it is the tight end position. It is, I really think this, and for those of y'all, hit the music, Jay, because we're going to go out on this one. For those of y'all that have access to the Trinity, I know Joe does. There are a lot of people in the chat that use that and look at the utilization. Go back and look at those 2020, 2021, 2022 Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews seasons, and look at how much they were utilized compared to receivers. I really think they broke the tight end position. We sit here and we chase those 20-point per game performances, and this could be the next Kelce, and this can be the next Andrews. And the reality, Jay, is that we ain't getting them tight ends to do that. To be utilized that much, to score that many points, 1,500 yards for it, we're probably not seeing that. I think they've ruined that. They broke the tight end position. It's going to take a little bit of time for us to rejig our train of thought to how we should value them. Because in our minds, we think Trey McBride should be a 17, 18, 19 point per game scorer. What they were doing was just historic shit. And tight ends are probably where they should be right now. And it's us for thinking that every rookie that came in that looked a little bit good was going to be the next version of Kelce or Andrews. So just tracking the tight ends and seeing if there are any trends we can pick up. But we appreciate everybody being in the building today on this Hump Day Wednesday. Make sure you jump back in on Freaky Friday. We will be back talking through the games, college, NFL. We got underdog, prop plays, fantasy plays, and our weekly ranking shows will come out. So we appreciate everybody being in the building. Subscribe, like, comment. Y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day. Wake y'all asses up with us tomorrow on Friday. We'll be back. We out. Peace.